everyone for joining today. I was going to say good morning, WA and South Australia, but as Charlie said, there's some Queenslanders, maybe some Sydney-siders, some Victorians on there. So thanks for joining in as well. Hope it's a sunny day in your part of the world. It's beautiful over here right now. And for anybody, if you've got any clients going to British Columbia, at this time of year, we seem to flip the switch on right around July 1st, which was just Canada Day, Canada's 150th birthday, just come and gone. And the weather turns perfect, and everybody posts on Facebook their amazing picnics and places by the lake and that sort of thing. The weather has got up into the 30 degrees over on the Rockies and Calgary side of Canada. So yeah, hopefully you have some happy clients visiting right now. So I thought rather than do the traditional sort of presentations I often do with Canada Specialists, talking about Vancouver, Victoria, and Whistler, since you've had so many people, for anybody who's a regular on this program, talking to you over the weeks about those destinations, I thought it would be great to maybe talk about the whole province of British Columbia, but break it down into what I'm going to call shoulder seasons and winter. So the springtime, the fall, and the winter, because we get so many people that are already interested in going in the summertime. You're probably very familiar with what you can buy in the summer. So I thought I would just highlight some of the things in those shoulder season times. The reason is it's often a lot cheaper to get an airfare at those times of years. Sometimes those fall into your school holidays periods. There's some great alternative activities you may not have thought about when thinking about selling your clients to British Columbia. So that's what I'm going to talk about overall. Please feel free to ask me questions, or if there's something I haven't talked about but you want to know the answer to, definitely let Charlie know on the messaging and we'll address those at the end. So just generally, this is Canada. Whoops. Of course, Vancouver is the destination most of your clients would probably be flying into, whether they're coming from on the direct flights with Air Canada from Brisbane or Sydney, or maybe they're coming via Auckland on their direct flight to Vancouver, or a lot of clients, especially if you're on the Perth side, may be flying through Asia and then directly into Vancouver. So this is just a bit more focus on British Columbia. Vancouver Island is right here to the left of Vancouver. Anybody selling wilderness lodge experiences, maybe seeing grizzly bears, that sort of thing, a lot of them are located either on small islands in the middle here, maybe on the mainland, or some on Vancouver Island themselves. Just traveling a bit north, this is Haida Gwaii, very beautiful, unique area that's called the Galapagos of the North. Some great Aboriginal experiences over there. We do border Alaska here, so a lot of people taking the cruises up will go through this area. We bordered the Yukon and Alberta and the Rocky Mountains. You'd be familiar with Kamloops, where the Rocky Mountaineer and the Via Rail trains stop or travel through. So that's, you've got Whistler, you've got Vancouver, so that just kind of gives you a snapshot. So when you think of things in British Columbia, or maybe what your clients come in to ask you about, these are probably some of the things that come to mind. Places like Vancouver, the Rocky Mountaineer train, or maybe the Via Rail train. You probably get asked for clients and families that want to go skiing in January or maybe Christmas. You get asked to come skiing in British Columbia. We've got 13 world-class resorts. Or if you've got people on an escorted tour, they're probably wanting to see the Butchart Gardens over in Victoria. So I thought I'd throw all of that out the window because those are the things that you hear about a lot. You've probably had presentations on those already. And like I said, I'll start with spring and things you can do in British Columbia that you maybe didn't know about. So this photo is taken in Vancouver, and this is what it looks like in spring. Beautiful cherry blossoms all over the place. And the great thing about British Columbia in spring is we are spring before the rest of Canada. Places like Vancouver Island are spring sometimes by February. So while the rest of it is still snowy and cold, we're starting to blossom, and a lot more attractions are available and on offer that wouldn't otherwise be in other parts of the country. Victoria claims it is the first place in Canada to have the cherry blossoms, and well, they're saying March 1st, but I have been there and I have seen it in February. So with that in mind, what can you do in these provinces at this time of year? And so when I talk about spring, I'm just going to call it any time between sort of March and the 1st of June. So that's what we'll call spring. And this is a typical shot on Vancouver Island in Victoria. And this could be spring, maybe summer, but it all looks about the same. There isn't a lot of snow over on Vancouver Island this time of year. Easter 2018, if you hadn't already looked up those dates, starts on March 29th. So we've got an early Easter this year, or next year. If you're calling in from Queensland or Victoria, your school holidays also start on March 29th. And I don't find a lot of families in Australia think about going to Canada on their school holidays or their Easter holidays, but it's a great time of year to go. So the flights are always a lot less expensive. It's not crowded. If you've got families that are still interested in skiing, the ski resorts are still open until about mid-April. So for South Australia and WA, school holidays aren't starting until April 14th, so maybe a bit late to the ski part. But there's still a lot of options, and people just think when they want to go for winter and skiing, they go in January. But April's a lot warmer, there's still a lot of snow, and it's an excellent time to go. So what else can you do at this time of year in this sort of area of the world? If you are going over to Victoria, they have an event called Dine Around, which is a food event. All of the top restaurants in the city have really special deals on, and that runs all the way from mid-February to mid-March. So all those great restaurants, maybe it's normally $50 a plate, is now $25 a plate. So I've got a whole sheet here of links to give you, and I'll send that out as follow-up, and it has some of that information on it. So that's Dine Around Victoria. What else can you do? Well, I think a great spring itinerary is a combination of places like Vancouver, Vancouver Island, and Whistler. So back on Vancouver Island in a place like Victoria, they're calling themselves the culinary capital, the craft beer capital of Canada. They run a ton of different tours. This is just some examples, and those are retail Canadian prices. I've just grabbed this off their website, more for the tour itineraries. They've got food tours. They've got this company called Peddler Bike Tours that do these great bike itineraries. So again, at that time of year, you can ride a bike around there. They do beer tours on a bike. They do the electric bike tour cruising. They do castle tours, historical tours, all sorts of things. I've got a whole list here of things you can do in Victoria in the spring, and they include, like I said, food tours. They include brewery tours, distillery tours, and so on and so forth. So there's no shortage of things to do over there. And again, with the weather being so much more pleasant, it's great to get around. The waters are not frozen, so getting outside and doing adventure activities like kayaking are possible. Whale watching is starting, and it's a really nice time of year to go whale watching because it's, again, not as busy. Victoria happens to have resident orca whales in the area, so in actual fact, they never leave. You can see them all year round. Spring is a great option. Moving over up the island and off to the west side in a place called Tofino. This is the west coast of British Columbia and of Vancouver Island. Really wilderness area, very pleasant place to be, beautiful for walking along the beach. There are some beautiful properties right on the water here. You can see some in this photo right here and here. Tofino is a great place also for whale watching. You see a lot more humpback whales migrating in this area, and bear watching. This is the black bears, and they come right down, not specifically right here on this beach, but you go out in the waters on a boat, and you go looking for whales and seals, and then you get along the coastlines, and as the tide goes out, you see the bears down there. And spring, the bears are coming out of hibernation, and they're wandering along the shores. So a great time for that. It's also a great place to check out the rainforest. There's lots of old-growth rainforest on Vancouver Island, and a lot of that is free. So it's great for singles, couples, families, wandering around, checking out. There's a lot of marked paths, so it's not just randomly walking through the forest. and seeing these great big beautiful trees. Other things to do in spring. So coming back onto the mainland, halfway between Vancouver and Whistler, you've got Squamish. And in Squamish, we've got a fairly new attraction called the Sea to Sky Gondola. So it's a matter of taking a gondola up the mountain. Now, I must admit this photo is probably not spring because there would be probably a lot more snow in the mountains in the distance. But it's likely that you'll be able to do walking around in this area in the spring without too much snow in front of you. So there's platforms for viewing, there's walking bridges, swinging bridges, there are hikes and that sort of thing in the area. And it's only 45 minutes from Vancouver. So it's a really beautiful area to go, especially if your clients don't have time to get all the way up to Whistler, or maybe it's a bit too snowy up there for them or something like that. This is another option. It's also a beautiful time to do things like the stand-up paddleboarding or looking at waterfalls. We've got waterfalls all over British Columbia, and in spring when the snow is melting, the waterfalls are the biggest. So there's waterfalls on the way up between Vancouver and Whistler on the drive that you can pull off and have a look at. You can walk right up to. This one happens to be north of Kamloops in an area called Wells Gray National Park. They say this is higher than Niagara Falls in terms of height. And this one's right up in the northern part of British Columbia. So lots of waterfalls, great time to see them is in the spring. Another thing that is very popular in spring is the other wildlife beyond bears and whales that I talked about. Bighorn sheep are spotted between March and June, and this is in the Rocky Mountain area. So this is the Rocky Mountains here. Radium Hot Springs is just across. If you were going to Lake Louise, it's probably another 30 minutes down the road, and you're sure to sight some bighorn sheep, maybe some bison, some elk, some caribou. They're all coming out in the spring looking for food along the side of the road. So if your clients are driving, there's a big chance that they'll see the wildlife in the spring. So from spring, skipping right through summer, beautiful time to be there. As I said, it's sunny and warm right now, and everybody's very happy. But moving into fall, again, shoulder season, maybe the itineraries, the flights are a little bit less expensive. The crowds have died down. Once the Canadians and Americans and their kids go back to school, which would be around September 1st, we move into fall. So I call fall September, October, and November. And there's a lot of things going on in fall. So you think about people are wanting to go over to see the fall leaves. Of course, on the east side, they've got a lot, the trees are different, not as many pine trees. So they have more of a covering of those colored leaves. But here's a photo you can see. We have the pine trees in the background. They don't change color, but we've got a lot of trees as well that are changing color. So if you've got people jumping in a car, maybe an RV, and doing a tour, driving through the Rockies, driving from Vancouver, you've still got warm conditions in September. You've got great traveling on the road, a lot less crowding because of people have gone back to school and work in North America, and you're seeing these beautiful fall colors. Another great thing about fall is the Northern Lights. The first shot was a photo of the Northern Lights, and people think you have to go somewhere really north in Canada to see them. British Columbia's got a ton of places that you can see the Northern Lights from. I grew up right on the border of Canada and the USA, and as a kid, we saw the Northern Lights often. So it's kind of more a matter of a clear sky, the middle of the night, and the darker it is, the better it is, which is why getting further into fall and winter, they become a lot stronger. So I have a link on my cheat sheet here that I'll send you that's got a lot of places in British Columbia to see those Northern Lights. The other thing that people love to come to British Columbia for in the fall is obviously the wildlife. And the wildlife are out because the salmon are out. The salmon are what they call spawning, so they are swimming back up estuaries and streams and rivers back to wherever they were born, which is usually somewhere in the middle of British Columbia. So they swam all the way from the ocean back inland. And they lay their eggs and then they die. And while that's all happening, the lovely bears are out waiting for a bit of food. So it is the most incredible time to see the wildlife, in my opinion, and obviously in a lot of people's opinion, because we've got a lot of tours booking up early and earlier every year. So if you've got clients wanting to go to those wilderness lodges, like this one, Night Inlet Lodge, and a lot of the other ones the tour operators are selling, definitely you've got to book a year out if you want them to go around the September time. So the most popular wildlife viewing is late August till about the end of September. What people don't realize is those lodges are open until mid-October, and you can often get a great deal and still get a booking in October. So you might not get, you might get a little wetter, maybe a little gloomier kind of days in October, but you're going to get the same amazing experience with those bears. You're going to get to see them. The salmon are going to be out, and it's going to be a great experience for the wildlife lovers in the group. We've also got the spirit bear, which is found in the Great Bear Rainforest, which is further north in British Columbia. It's along the coastline, about halfway up British Columbia. If you remember where I showed you where Haida Gwaii was, the Galapagos of the North, it's just sort of inland from that area. And we do have tour operators selling products like Spirit Bear Lodge, an Aboriginal run lodge where you can potentially see the spirit bear. Now, the spirit bear seems to only like to come out in the fall time, and I'm not exactly sure why that is, but if you've got clients wanting to see those bears, then they need to come in September, October time. There's some other crazy activities that you can do that involve wildlife, and fall is a great time to do them. We have a product called Snorkeling with the Seals off Nanaimo in Vancouver Island, and there's also snorkeling with the salmon. And I have included some information, some links on my cheat sheet here that I'll send through to you. So, of course, we have other wildlife to see. We've got sea lions, seals, walruses. They're all around the coastlines, both on Vancouver Island and on the mainland. And, of course, whales, great time to see whales, whether it's orcas, humpbacks, and there's plenty of places on Vancouver Island to see those whales. Driving trips, as I said, in September, it's usually a lot quieter on the road. If you are doing booking an RV, the parks that you book the RVs into will be less crowded. To be honest, they'll probably be full of Brits and Germans and some Australians at that time of year. Moving into the middle of British Columbia in the Okanagan region, this is an amazing time to be in this region because this is the fall harvest. So this is when all the vegetables out of the ground are coming up at their best, the pumpkins and the squash, and there's roadside fruit stands, apples, pears, plums, etc., all at this time of year, sort of September time frame. And there's a great big fall wine festival. It runs from September 28th to October the 8th, and that takes place in and around the Kelowna area. So for lovers of wine, we have 165 wineries in this region. There's some excellent events on, and it runs, as you can see, for a number of days and weeks, so I'll send you the link for that. It's also a great time to be eating at the restaurants in this area because everything is farm-to-table produce. Everything is fresh ingredients, and it is incredible. So I definitely recommend a visit to this area. September, October, if you've got clients going at that time of year. This is in the same region, the Kettle Valley Railway. It's a great long, over 100 kilometers, was a railway, is now a biking path, walking path, hiking, stretches all the way from the northern part of the Okanagan through, it goes through wineries, so you can bike and stop and do wine tastings. You can just go on a bike tour. They're really developing this area so that there are a lot more places to stop and stay overnight and that sort of thing along the way. So there'll be a bit more like your France or Italy type experiences. The middle of British Columbia, the Cariboo region, so again, sort of north and west of Kamloops, great area for horseback riding. As you can see, beautiful scenery. Fishing in this area, that if your clients are interested in fishing, horseback riding, maybe some ranch stays, that sort of thing, this is a great area for that. And this fall, again, is a good time for that. I talked about festivals a bit. There's some other great festivals running in the fall months. So Victoria has an International Wine Festival in late September. And Whistler runs a food and wine week-long event called Cornucopia, and that's in November. So again, we've got lots of things in those months that you didn't think you could do anything in Canada. Moving over into the Rocky Mountain side of British Columbia, we've got some great product. This is heli hiking. This looks a little bit crazy. You don't have to get quite this crazy, but CMH Heli Skiing open up their lodges in the summer months and right through into September. Give guests the opportunity to helicopter in. I think you see some people standing right here over to the left. Helicopter in, be placed on top of a mountain, and then go for a bit of a walk, maybe a hike. It might be a little bit challenging, or they might do some less treacherous activities. You get to experience all the scenery and stay in a beautiful lodge out in the wilderness. Some more beautiful photos of that area. So that sort of wraps up what I'll call the fall time of year. And we'll move over into winter. So when you think about winter in British Columbia, you probably think about skiing and selling your clients ski holidays, especially at Christmas and especially in January. I've done a ton of research on the winter stuff, and we have a lot of operators now selling some fabulous winter tour product, whether it's FIT or escorted. So be sure to look up their brochures or to speak to some of those people about their tours, because there's a lot on the market. And I'll just touch on some of those types of products now. So this photo is taken at Big White Ski Resort. This is a man-made ice climbing wall where kids and adults alike can get the chance to try their hand at ice climbing, which is something a bit different and a bit fun. So one of the things, when I talk about winter, I guess it's sort of December, January, February, March time of year. And what a lot of people don't think about or know about is we have a ton of activity in what I call the pre-Christmas season. So the last week of November, right through to Christmas, we have so many things going on that Australians really dream about when it comes to Canada. And there are a lot of people out there who like to go on a trip pre-Christmas and land back in time for Christmas. And a lot of people's kids are out of school by, the second week of December. I know a lot of the Queenslanders got friends whose kids are done by December 10th, and what do they do? So if they're looking for something a little different, out of Brisbane, the Air Canada flight that lands, that goes direct to Vancouver, flies on to New York City. And I know a lot of people love going to New York City for the shopping, for the Rockefeller Center, putting up the Christmas tree, all that sort of stuff, maybe Thanksgiving in America at the end of November. So whilst that's all going on, we have a lot of things as well. This is Vancouver at that time of year. So we get snow on the North Shore Mountains. We don't get a lot of snow down in the downtown area. This is Grouse Mountain. It is a ski resort in the winter, but it also has hosts for a month. It's called the Peak of Christmas. So up on here we have Santa's Workshop, we have reindeer, we have ice skating, hot chocolate, bonfires, all that stuff going on, snowshoeing, and you can experience all of that stuff from the end of November. You probably never guessed where this is, but this is a photo of Capilano Suspension Bridge. You've probably seen the bridge facing sideways with green, beautiful trees. Well, in the winter, this is probably an anomaly that it gets this much snow. But from the end of November, they light it all up, and they light the bridge up, they light a whole bunch of the trees up, and they call it Canyon Lights at Capilano Suspension Bridge. So again, all those things people see on the television programs and the movies of all these beautiful trees and the snow and everything, it does happen here in November. This is in Stanley Park. We've got all sorts of things, and everything starts around the American Thanksgiving weekend. We have ships on the water that do caroling. They're decorated up. They do turkey, ham dinner, Christmas carols on board, and they run every other day in Vancouver. This is Santa's Workshop up on Grouse Mountain. And a lot of other things. I'll just name a few off here in Vancouver that you can do at that time of year. They've got the Vancouver Christmas markets, which are a bit like a German market with the Glühwein, Christmas crafts, etc. There's a lot of places for shopping. Canada's adopted the American Thanksgiving Black Friday, and we do just as many sales as they do at that time of year. We have a new outlet mall now that's based just by the airport called MacArthur Glen for anybody wanting outlet shopping. We've got food tours, brewery tours, etc., and that's all in Vancouver. Likewise, over in Victoria, they have just as many Christmas events in the lead up to Christmas. They have a festival of trees. The Boucher Gardens does what Capiletta Suspension Bridge does and lights up all of the lights around the place. They have gingerbread house showcases, et cetera, et cetera. So why the Bald Eagle here? Well, one of the other really cool things to do moving past Christmas and pre-Christmas is an eagle watching festival in Squamish. So halfway to Whistler in late January is the best time of year to see the eagles. You can see them pretty much all the way throughout January, and they sometimes spot up to 3,000 at a time in one day in this area. So if you're interested in that sort of wildlife, you can see that in January. There's lots of other activities. All the resorts that are offering skiing offer non-ski activities, and a lot of the operators are combining things like Vancouver with Whistler, maybe with Sun Peaks, maybe with way out in the wilderness trying to see things like moose and wolves and elk as well. Some of the activities you'll find in those ski resorts that are non-skiing are gondola trips, zip lining, dog sledding, tube parks, snowshoeing, snowmobiling, sleigh rides, and ice skating. So lots of different options for people. And speaking of ice skating, I get asked all the time about ice hockey. Something as an option for fall and winter, the National Hockey League, they have games starting in October and running right through till April. And if you're looking to send clients to that, so Vancouver has a team, the Vancouver Canucks. There is a company called USASportstickets.com who I will send the link to. They have an office here in Australia, and they do commission to travel agents their tickets, so they're a great option for getting tickets to NHL games. If you've got clients that don't want to spend that kind of money because your tickets you're looking at starting at about $150 a ticket, then I always tell people, especially with families, why don't you try the Western Hockey League? So that league is the 16 to 19-year-olds that play. They are the ones feeding into the National Hockey League as they get older. There are teams based in Victoria, in Vancouver, in Kamloops, and in Kelowna, some of the top teams in the country. So it's called the Western Hockey League, WHL.com. Their tickets go for about $20 a piece. And it's very easy to get them on the day, maybe a couple days before, for families who are looking to go. If you've got clients staying up at a resort, maybe like a Whistler or Sun Peaks, they often have a shuttle that drives down into town for the night so they can go to the game and then takes them back to the resort. So no driving necessary. Other things you can do in winter in British Columbia, you can head over to the west side of Vancouver Island. They call it storm watching. I call it bad weather. So you can spend some time at a beautiful 5-star resort. There's some 4- or 5-star properties out in this area. You can snuggle up by a fire. You can eat beautiful meals and watch these wild storms out your window. Or you can go out and wander along the beach in rubber boots and rubber hats and rubber jackets that are usually provided by the resorts themselves. So that's an option for people who want something a little bit different. It's also kind of an interesting option to combine with going to the snow. So we have lots of things all over British Columbia that are non-ski, as you can see, and we've got lots of operators selling them. One other event is the Sun Peaks Ice Festival, or Ice Wine Festival, sorry. So it's a winter wine festival in January. It's a lot of fun, sells out very quickly for people that are going to that area. So that pretty much wraps up fall, winter, and spring in British Columbia. Sort of something different you probably haven't heard about yet. We've got lots of great reference material. I'll send you through my cheat sheet shortly. Here's some information about the blog, trip ideas, etc. And as Charlie mentioned, I'm based here in Sydney, so if you need me for anything, feel free to call or email me, or check out our Facebook page, which is Australian-focused at Hello BC. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Charlie, back to you, and if anybody has any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Joanne, thank you so much. So great to see some of those lesser known things and things to do outside of those peak summer months. So thank you so much. I particularly love the pre-Christmas stuff. Well, you know me, I love the winter and love BC and so much great stuff to do. And then, yeah, like you say, still be home in time for a warm, summery Christmas. So it's a good combination. So, guys, the floor's open for questions. Please send through your questions in the chat box, and I will read them out for Joanne. Just some other notes I made. So, of course, it was Canada's birthday on Saturday, on the 1st of July, but those 150th birthday celebrations are going on all year. So make sure you do check out or get your clients to check out what might be on while they're in Canada or in BC this year. Any questions? Nothing's coming through just yet. Joanne, if anybody wants brochures or maps or anything, do you have any of those stocked in Australia?
Yes. Yeah, I have road maps of the whole province, and I have brochures. They're not brand new, but the information, the content in them is pretty much standard. They are available through TIFFs. Once the brochures are gone, we aren't printing anymore. I think I have about 700 left. For anybody who's involved with Flight Centre, we will be involved at the expos in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane this year, next month, or the end of this month, so we'll have that information there as well. So yeah, TIFFs is where you can find them. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, Linda just says, thank you, very informative. Thanks, Linda. Okay, well, we'll sign off there. If anybody does have any questions, type them in. Kathy says, thanks for great insight, things I hadn't considered before. Already bookmarked the Hello BC website for future reference. Thanks, Kathy. Cool. All righty. Thanks, ladies. Have a great day, and see you next time.
Thank you.